I'm not even discounting the possibility that there are invisible entities out there in the universe far smarter than ourselves who we could possibly be in dialogue with. I mean, there are many strange ideas that we could defend to one or another degree. There are people walking around speculating that we might be living in a computer simulation, that all of this is being run on some hard drive of the future or some alien supercomputer. Now, that you can actually, I mean, Nick Bostrom at Oxford gives a very cogent argument in defense of that thesis. Right? Now you can deal with that on its merits. I'm not saying the universe isn't stranger than we suppose or even can suppose, but one thing we know is that when you read the Bible, you can turn every page of that book and you will not find evidence of omniscience. You will not find anything in there that someone as smart as Shakespeare, or actually a little bit dumber, could have written.
No,
right?
I don't think that's true, Sam. There are incredibly
whatever
else you might say about the biblical writings, there are incredibly potent narratives embedded within them. It's impossible to write something, virtually impossible to write something like Cain and Abel. It's a paragraph long, and it's absolutely
you're saying the Shakespeare of 3,000 years ago couldn't have written Genesis?
He couldn't have written Cain and Abel, not in 10 sentences.
So then who
Cain and Abel is 10 sentences long.
So then
and it contains more wisdom than you can dig out in a lifetime.
So now we're getting to the nub of it. Then you think that was not the product of a human mind?
I think it was the product of a vast collection of human minds working over millennia.
Okay, so we have a committee of Shakespeare's. So, but still, we're just dealing with people. We've just got people.
Well, but
this concession, if indeed you're making it, and I'm still not sure, is the eradication of traditional Christianity.
Look, if something is deeply wise, it's reflective of a deeper reality. Otherwise, it wouldn't be wise.
I'm in love with deeper realities.
So what's the deeper reality that something as wise as the story of Cain and Abel reflects? What's the reality?
A landscape of mind that that either takes great training, great luck, or pharmacological bombardment of the human brain to explore. Right? There are ways to get there. There are ways to have the beatific vision, right? And we understand this to some degree experientially, and we can understand it to some degree by third-person methods of science. And it's not like I don't know. I mean, I've had many experiences that, if I had them in a religious context, would have counted for me as evidence of the truth of my religion, right? But because I was not brought up in a religious context, and because I spend a lot of time seeing the downside of that form of credulity, I have never been tempted to interpret these experiences that way.
Try a higher dose.
Yeah, I've tried. Believe me, yes. I'll go. I'll play that game of poker with you all day long.
You'd be surprised, my friend.
Yes. Well, maybe.
We're going to have to ask about Q&A.
Maybe there's our next podcast.
Yeah. The apparent failure, perhaps, of the rationalist atheist types to develop an active ethos that has sufficient beauty and motivational power to serve as a credible replacement for the religious rituals. So there must be a reason why that failure has occurred, right? So, do you have any sense of what the reason might be?
I can give you a short list of reasons. One is that traditionally the impulse to do that in a religious context has been fatal, right? So to declare your apostasy has been the almost as reliable a way of committing suicide as jumping off a building in most cultures and most societies for the longest time, and still is in many places, as you know, in the Muslim world. So there's been a barrier to entry to thinking creatively about alternatives to religion. And so much of atheism and secularism is just a pitched battle against the eroding power of religion. I mean, when religion really has its power, right? We know what it's like. I mean, again, I think we spoke about this at one point. The moment that it makes this most salient is Galileo being shown the instruments of torture by men who wouldn't look through his telescope, right? I mean, that was the point of contact between untrammeled human rationality and the womb that bore it, right? The religious awe at the beauty of the heavens, right? So the moment a person like Galileo stepped a little too far, and to connect this to astrology again, Galileo was a court astrologer, right? I mean, so there was a point of contact between astronomy and astrology at that point. So we're still under the shadow of that kind of dogmatism and oppression in much of the world. I mean, for the longest time, I mean, it's still in the United States, you cannot run for the presidency without pretending to believe in God. It's amazing. It's an amazing fact, right? When will that change? Someday it will,